Go into the world and tell every man that you meet, there is a man on the cross.
A Catholic Take. What you need to know right now. A bold synthesis of inspiration and information. Keeping you up to date on the news and issues from a courageous Catholic perspective.
A Catholic Take with Joe McLean starts now.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McLean. So good to be on with you. Praise be to God. It's good to be back in my studio, too. I just got to tell you. Hey, it's a turning point for Pope Francis, a turning point for the church and for the world. Well, maybe. We'll have to see. The most recent update coming out of the Vatican in regards to Pope Francis's health says that he slept well during the night and is now resting. It also seems to indicate that his kidney issues have subsided, and they're thinking he's more stable now than he has been. And rumors are starting to swirl. We've seen and talked a lot about rumors this past week, but rumors are now that he might actually survive this and go back to work. So we're going to have to cover that carefully and see where it goes. But that's not stopping other rumor mills. Like, for instance, the sort of the lobbying going on pre-conclave. Francis is not even dead, and there's lots of lobbying going on pre-conclave to elect a pope that will push back against the Donald Trump movement and the anti-immigration movement in particular. But it would seem that, to throw another log on the fire, the Vatican is in a financial crisis right now, and they are desperate for donor dollars. Liz Yore's been reporting on this quite a bit, especially since the USAid funding freeze. So we're going to talk about all of these stories with Michael Hichborn coming up at 30 past the hour from Lepanto Institute. We're going to get his take on all of that on the show this hour. Also, if we have time, I don't know if you caught this, but there is a video out. Looks like an AI-generated video that Donald Trump, he passed this around his Truth Social account, and now it's making the rounds around X. It's an AI-generated video sort of showing what Gaza could look like when Donald Trump turns it into a Riviera with a Trump hotel and all of that. It's quite disturbing on a number of levels, not the least of which was Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu hanging out on the beach together, half dressed. Not good. It's not a good look. But we might get into that this hour as well. And there's some Supreme Court cases that I want to talk to Brent Haynes about at 14 past the hour. So lots to talk about. We're going to put everything in the show notes for you over at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. Let's get to it. So much to get to. Share us with a friend. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thine intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and now your saint of the day.
Saint Gabriel of Our Lady of Sorrows, pray for us. Francesco Possenti was born to a large wealthy family in Assisi, Italy, in the year of our Lord 1838, and lost his mother at a young age. He was educated by the Brothers of the Christian Schools and by the Jesuits, and proved himself an excellent student. Though Francesco never drifted away from the faith, he was prone to anger, and inclined to vanity in his dress, demeanor, and love of dancing. On 2 occasions, Francesco fell seriously ill and promised God that he would enter religious life if he recovered. Yet he twice forgot or put off the decision after regaining his health. Then he was seriously wounded in a hunting accident, and Francesco finally told his father of his promise. His father resisted, but Our Lady intervened with a direct admonition to Francesco, and at the age of 18, the young man entered the Passionists, or the Congregation of the Passion of Jesus Christ. Francesco took the name Gabriel of Our Lady of Sorrows, and served joyfully for 5 years, before his long, painful, but holy death of tuberculosis at the young age of 23. For more about this day and others in the Church's calendar, visit thestationofthecross.com/saints and seasons. Saint Gabriel of Our Lady of Sorrows, Pray for us.
And now your headline news. The Pillar reports Pope creates Vatican donations body. The Holy See Press Office yesterday released documents signed by the Pope founding the Commission of Donations for the Holy See. Pope Francis signed the document February the 11th, 3 days before he was admitted to Rome's Gemelli Hospital, where he remains in critical condition today. The Holy See is facing a budget black hole, with its expenses believed to exceed its income by tens of millions of dollars annually. In a preface to the Donation Commission statutes, the Pope said that he had decided to establish the new body to support the service of the Apostolic See and in view of the current economic situations. Maybe also, as Liz Yor has pointed out, that USAID funding might have made up for all those tens of millions. Let that sink in. We'll talk about that coming up this hour. Hey, Daily Wire reports Hochul threatens arrest for striking officers. About 15,000 correction officers across New York State are on strike and protesting over their concerns about safety being ignored for too long, officers say. Specifically, officers have cited Democrat-backed legislation such as the HALT Act and the closing of numerous prisons for creating an unsafe work environment. Long mandated shifts, which officers say can last numerous days at a time. Speaking to the press about the escalating strike, New York Governor Kathy Hochul confirmed that she's taking legal moves to have striking officers arrested. Let that sink in. And Catholic Vote reports explosive kills Texas rancher near Mexico border. Texas officials are warning farmers and others near the Mexico border to be extremely careful amid increased threats posed by cartels. The heightened alarm comes after 2 drivers, including a U.S. citizen, were killed by an improvised explosive device, an IED, likely planted by cartel members. Yikes. Those are your headline news. The gospel today comes to us from Mark chapter 9, verses 41 through 50. Or, as the Douay Rheims, 40 through 49. Jesus said to his disciples, "For whoever shall give you to drink a cup of water in my name because you belong to Christ, amen, I say to you, he shall not lose his reward. And whoever shall scandalize one of these little ones that believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hung about his neck and he were cast into the sea. And if thy hand scandalize thee, cut it off. It is better for thee to enter into life maimed than having 2 hands to go into hell, into unquenchable fire, where the worm dieth not and the fire is not extinguished. And if thy foot scandalize thee, cut it off. It is better for thee to enter lame into life everlasting than to have 2 feet to be cast into the hell of unquenchable fire, where the worm dieth not and the fire is not extinguished. And if thy eye scandalize thee, pluck it out. It is better for thee with 1 eye to enter into the kingdom of God than to have 2 eyes to be cast into the hell of fire, where the worm dieth not and the fire is not extinguished. For every one shall be salted with fire, and every victim shall be salted with salt. Salt is good, but if the salt become unsavory, wherewith will you season it? Have salt in you, and have peace among you." The Gospel of the Lord. Laus tibi Christi. Boy, there's so much going on in this passage. I mean, did you catch the repeating pattern? Where the fire is unquenchable, where the worm dieth not. It gets repeated 3 times in that short passage. Let that sink in. You really do need to ponder that. That is being emphasized for a reason there. Father Haydock would say, here we find that no one, however poor, can be excused from good works. Since there is no one who is not able to give at least a cup of cold water, and we are assured that he will not lose his reward. Oh, by the way, if you go to Mass today, the Novus Ordo, they do exclude those a worm dieth not and unextinguishable fire passages. I'm not sure why they delete those. They should be there, and they're there for a reason. So again, take that into consideration. The great commentator Cornelius Alapide would say, for everyone, namely such as are adjudged to Gehenna, shall be salted with fire, that is, shall be burnt and tormented with fire, but in such manner that by the same fire, as it were by salt, they shall be preserved incorrupt for everlasting torments. He goes on, he must therefore be salted by suffering tribulation. That is, he must be crucified and purified. He must be salted with the mystical salt of prudence, discretion, and evangelical wisdom, which teaches us that it is better to cut off our hand than to go into hell. There is an allusion to, or indeed in a mystical sense, a citation to Leviticus 2:13, which says, whatsoever thou shalt offer in sacrifice, thou shalt season with salt. And St. Jerome, he says, by salt understand also the fire of purgatory. Hear what he says. The victim of the Lord is the human race, which in this life is seasoned with the season of wisdom. When the corruption of the blood, which is the source of putridity, that is, the mother of worms, is consumed, and after this life is tried by purgatorial fire. Gehenna, the valley of Gehenna, where the worm dieth not and the fire will not be extinguished, is where they burnt their trash day and night, 365 days a year. Why? Because that is where they offered babies to the demon Moloch, and it became undefiled. And they could not, or they became defiled, and they would not go there for any other reason. That is the vision that Jesus gives to his disciples for hell. Let that sink in. We must be salted with the purgatorial fires, either in this life or in the life to come. Choose wisely. Be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Did you know you can help evangelize simply by using your cell phone? The Station of the Cross is partnering with iCatholic Mobile, America's only Catholic mobile phone company. When you join iCatholic Mobile, a portion of every dollar will support our programming. Plus, you'll enjoy great service with iCatholic Unlimited 5G data, text and talk. With iCatholic Mobile, you can stay connected with family and friends while also spreading the truth of Jesus Christ with clarity and charity. Join today at iCatholicMobile.com.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain. Praise be to God. It's good to be on with you. Hey, by the way, I've got a plan on iCatholicMobile.com. I appreciate them. They're a sponsor of what we do here. So a part of our funding comes to us by iCatholicMobile.com. You can check them out online. I encourage you to do so. We love the service. I love the fact that my phone company is Catholic. Praise be to God. iCatholicMobile.com for more information. If you can check it out on our show notes, too. We'll post a link there as well. But coming up at 30 past the hour, we're going to talk about a turning point here. Is Pope Francis turning a corner in his health? Rumors are circulating now that instead of being 72 hours close to death, that in fact he might recover from all of this. Okay, praise God. That's good, right? We've been praying for his health this whole time. But it's not stopped some things happening over at the Vatican. In fact, there are a lot of, let's just say, lobbying efforts in play right now for a potential future conclave. And there's rumors that Pope Francis might, in fact, resign from his office in the next consistory that he's called in his business while in critical condition. All that while the Vatican is just hemorrhaging cash right now and needs a big boost to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. We're going to talk about all of that with Michael Hichborn from Lepanto Institute at 30 past the hour. But as is our custom here on the program, our good friend, attorney, Catholic freedom fighter Brent Haynes joins us every Thursday morning. Brent, good morning to you. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, everyone.
I saw a headline and I couldn't help it. I had to bring it up today just because over the past, 4+ years or so, you just don't see things kind of going our way all that much. And now we're starting to see some changing in the headlines here. Here's one. Supreme Court seems likely to rule for Ohio woman claiming job bias because she was straight. So her employer was persecuting her because she was straight and not gay. and the Supreme Court's, on her side, that's a good thing, right?
Well, like a lot of these issues, Joe, where you sit depends on where you stand. What happened is this woman, Marlene Ames, worked for a government agency in Ohio, and she started there in 2004. She got promoted through the years, and then in 2018, she even got relatively good, at least an acceptable job rating in 10 out of 11 categories. And in the 11th category was rated above acceptable. And her supervisor in that review was a gay woman. This is important in this legal analysis that we all know what we do in our private lives. And then in 2019, she applied for another job. And then two things happened, according to her claims at the Supreme Court. One was that she didn't get the job, but that they hired a gay woman to replace her. And the other is she says she was demoted, received almost to a previous position, cutting her pay almost in half, and that she was replaced from the position from which she was demoted by a gay man. So she goes to court saying, I'm a straight woman and I was discriminated against in favor of a gay woman and a gay man. Now, why is this case at the Supreme Court? The issue at the Supreme Court is really pretty simple. The issue is, what is her burden of proof? Because historically, up until now at least, unless the Supreme Court rules in her favor, a straight person at the Supreme Court or in any court in the United States alleging that they were discriminated against because they're not gay has a lesser burden or has a higher burden of proof than someone who goes to court and says, hey, I'm gay and somebody discriminated against me. My employer discriminated against me. Or I'm a member of this other minority group and somebody discriminated against me. In other words, members of minority groups have an easier time proving discrimination according to the pure legal standard than people who are not members of the minority groups. And you might say, Joe, well, that doesn't sound fair. I thought everybody in the United States was equal before the law. And in fact, I thought there was a provision in the Constitution in the 14th Amendment called the Equal Protection Clause. And Joe, you would be right. There is an Equal Protection Clause in the 14th Amendment. And that has been a fundamental part of the entire American legal system since our founding. But this is another example of how affirmative action laws have simply distorted large areas of life and large areas of law. And this is really what conservatives for decades now have called reverse discrimination. Affirmative action takes into account someone's race, or affirmative action takes into account some aspect of a person's being that describes them as being a member of a particular group and then says, you get an advantage. And you get an advantage only by being placed above other people. That means they're not on an equal playing field, and that is discrimination. So this whole idea historically that we're going to fight racial discrimination with racial discrimination is being relitigated, this time in the context of the ever-expanding discrimination continuum, this time in the context of sexual orientation. But that's the case in a nutshell. It's really a reverse discrimination at the Supreme Court to decide whether everybody has the same burden of proof.
Would this be a precedent then for other cases that might come up, because we're trying to overcome DEI in America and in corporate America and in the West? Do you think corporations that have been implementing DEI over the past couple of decades now, because Obama really kind of kicked those things off for his 8 years in office, do you think that others might use this case as a way of saying, hey, I was discriminated against because of the color of my skin or some other qualifier?
Yes, Joe. Remember 2 years ago, the case from Harvard University, where Asian American students said, hey, you're discriminating against us because we're Asian American. And that was affirmative action in the context of education, and specifically in the context of higher education for universities, which are sometimes treated different than lower levels of education involving children. And the Supreme Court struck down Harvard and said, look, this is wrong. You cannot violate against people on the basis of their race. This case, if this woman is victorious, would, in essence, extend this principle that we're going to stop affirmative action, or we're going to stop what many people call reverse discrimination, and apply it to the employment sphere. So to answer your question, it's not so much that it would allow more people to come in and file lawsuits as it would help bring corporations in line and businesses in line so that they'll stop these affirmative action programs discriminating against one group of people in favor of another. Now, that means people who suffer genuine discrimination still can come to court. They have been. This has been the law since Congress passed the Civil Rights Act in 1964, and then added to it over the years. And the courts have added to it over the years. People who are genuinely discriminated against can still go to court. The point is, if they go to court, the burden's going to be the same for everybody. Everybody has the same level of proof. Everybody gets treated the same, whether they're a member of a designated minority group or not. So this could bring us one step further, Joe, to finally achieving what Martin Luther King. And by the way, we're talking about sex discrimination case, but the principle is the same. Martin Luther King Jr. talked about, having a colorblind society, and that's what we worked for years and decades. That was the whole point of affirmative action. Even from the people who advocated it out of good intentions, they said, look, we have some people who have been discriminated against in the past very seriously. There's no denying that. So they need some sort of advantage to try to get back on an equal footing in society. Well, it's been 60 years, Joe, just since the Civil Rights Act. Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor made a famous statement in a case in 2003 in an affirmative action case. And she said, essentially, well, in 25 years, the United States won't need affirmative action. Okay, first of all, you might say, Joe, or you might say, Brent, there's nothing in the Constitution that talks about temporary policy provisions or making laws different for a few years for some people and then changing them later for other people after a few years. And I would say you're exactly right. So her statement that we would only need affirmative action for another 25 years was really a concession to the principle that these affirmative action laws are an aberration in terms of treating people equally under the law. And guess what, Joe? That was in 2003. 25 years is almost up. It's time to end the reverse discrimination. We've got to start treating people equally, and we need to begin treating them equally in courts of law.
I want to switch topics now because we're going to run out of time here very quickly. I want to get over to the border. There was a report out over the weekend of an IED down on the border. That seems to change things significantly, in my opinion. If you really want, the American military to go gloves off, well, I guess this is step one towards that goal, is to plant IEDs and kill people along the border in Texas. There's an issue. And then, of course, now Tom Homan coming out and saying that activists have been doxing agents to try to harass them and prevent them from doing their job. It's becoming an impossible situation in some cases just to enforce the law. Brent Haynes, what say you?
Yeah, again, another sad sign of the decline of the rule of law in this country and how viciously and irrationally partisan many people have become. We should be able to discuss our disagreements rationally and calmly and peacefully. And when one side loses in an election, they should not take violence as their response. They should not go around and try to break the law. They should continue to engage in the public discourse and come back in the next election and do their best. But remember, these people, many of them, just literally believe by any means necessary. They literally believe that the ends justifies the means. And doxing agents is serious. It can be life-threatening. And guess what? These men and women have families. They have husbands and wives, and they have children. And the people who are revealing their identities are not only breaking the law, they are really showing that they don't care for the humanity of these people. I was speaking with a younger person a few years ago about a certain legal case and, about the result. And that person who identified as, being on the other side of the political issues from me, stated, well, sometimes somebody innocent has to suffer for the greater good. No, this is America. Just like a moment ago, we're talking about discrimination cases where everybody's supposed to be equal before the law. No, in America, we judge every criminal defendant individually, and everybody's supposed to be judged fairly and individually. We don't sacrifice individuals for the group or for the greater good. These people doxing these agents are putting them at risk. They're showing that they do not respect the law. And that's just one aspect of it. Look at the federal employees who reported anonymously after Trump took office, saying they were going to stay in office and just try to fight the system every way they can. We have to get back to the rule of law, or the political structure in the country will just continue to disintegrate.
All right, Brent Haynes, thanks for your input on these stories. We're going to link to them over at the show notes at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. You can find it there. Brent, we'll see you next week. God bless you, brother. But coming up after the break, is it a turning point for Pope Francis's health? Some are saying he's going to recover. He's going to go back to work. Others are saying he's called a consistory not just to make new cardinals, not just to elevate causes of canonization, but to resign from the chair. These are just rumors. We don't know. We're keeping an eye on it, but we're going to talk about those rumors with Michael Hichborn coming up right after the break. The cash problem in the Vatican could be a major turning point. All that and more is coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain, and it's great to be on with you. Ground News reports, Senate confirms Jamieson Greer to be Trump's top trade negotiator. The U.S. Senate confirmed Jamieson Greer as U.S. Trade Representative with a vote of 56-43, including support from 5 Democrats. Greer will prioritize implementing Trump's tariff plans, including 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico due to border security demands. He aims to renegotiate the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, focusing on stricter automotive content rules amidst concerns over trade imbalances. Greer has also emphasized the need to address the flow of fentanyl into the United States. Breitbart reports Ukraine agrees to Trump rare earth minerals deal. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will fly to Washington, D.C. to sign a rare earth mineral deal with President Donald Trump on Friday, formalizing a future economic relationship between the two countries and ensuring a return on investment for America's very large spending on the Ukraine war. Ukraine's deputy prime minister, who has been the lead person in negotiations for Kiev, said the agreement is the start of something bigger. And Catholic Vote reports Gabbard fires intelligence staff over bizarre sex chats. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard fired more than 100 intelligence officials from 15 agencies on Tuesday. The officials had participated in sexually explicit, often LGBTQ-themed chat rooms on government messaging systems created by the National Security Agency just for classified communications. A good use of your tax dollars, I'm sure. And those are your headline news. We're turning to a turning point of sorts. The Vatican continues to be somewhat vague in its updates. The one from this morning, as soon as I got up, I checked. It said the Pope slept well during the night and is now resting. But they also talked about how his kidney issues might have subsided and he might be improving here. And some people are starting to wonder whether or not he is improving. However, we've also talked about a major development in the cash black hole that the Vatican is experiencing right now to the tunes of tens of millions of dollars. But let me play this clip real quick just to remind you of the connection between USAID and the Vatican. Have a listen.
There's a lot of information that is impacting the Catholic Church in America and around the world. One interesting piece of information came out of the State Department with the disclosure of basically what is a memorandum of understanding, a cooperative agreement between the U.S. Embassy at the Vatican and the Vatican. What it talks about are these quote-unquote shared goals that will be promoted by both the Vatican and the State Department. Those shared goals are things like environmentalism, climate change, diversity, DEI agenda. Can you imagine the State Department is now telling the Holy See that it should be hiring more women and more minorities, as if the Vatican is a bureaucracy. And
I'll pause that there. I'll link to it in the show notes for you. That was Liz Yore, by the way. And we'll link to it in the show notes at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. All that to say, golly gee whiz, didn't they just put a female as president of the government there? Anyway, I digress. Michael Hichborn is on the team today from Lepanto Institute. He's been reporting on USAID, PEPFAR for many years now, talking about the corruption from a financial perspective, as well as all the other immoralities we've seen in some of these Catholic NGOs. And now there's evidence to suggest the Vatican is hurting because it's not getting those good tax dollars from America. Michael, good morning to you. Thank you for your time. What say you?
Well, as I think about what's happening with the Vatican and its finances, you have to ask the question, why are donations down? And I think that the vast majority of the answer is that Catholics are fed up. They're fed up with being spoon-fed this agenda of environmentalism. They're fed up with being scolded about immigration reform. They're fed up with all of the worldly pursuits that have been introduced into the Vatican, when really the Vatican and the church on the whole should be looking for the best way to save souls and to draw souls to Christ. That's the purpose of the church. So when you look at this need to create a dicastery for donations, which is, or a commission for donations, it speaks to the larger problem of Catholics not giving. And then on the flip side, as you pointed out, you have this other part of it that the Catholic Church has become overly reliant upon U.S. funding. You've got Caritas Internationalis receiving tons of money from USAID. You've got Catholic Relief Services also receiving billions of dollars from USAID. You have Catholic Charities receiving tons and tons and billions upon billions of dollars from the federal government in order to perpetuate this open borders, ongoing worldly agenda under the guise of charity. And that's the problem. It's the essence of the problem. But as long as the church is focused on these worldly pursuits, they're not going to get any more funding from faithful Catholics.
Yeah. It's almost as though, again, I use this term so many times, like tone deaf. It's like they're tone deaf. Do they not really understand how the faithful are really fed up? They're just tired of this constant, cycle of scandal and confusion and ambiguity. Even your average Novus Ordo suburban Catholic going Catholic, even they're getting very tired of it all. Why don't they hear that and then act accordingly?
Well, it's funny you should ask that, because we're supposed to have a listening church, right? We're supposed to have a synodal church where we're approaching everybody and we're asking everybody for their input. But the fact of the matter is that faithful Orthodox traditional Catholics have been locked out of these conversations. They don't want to hear from us, but I guess that also means they don't want our money. It's kind of a quid pro quo, where there is a relationship to be developed with faithful Catholics, but they don't want that relationship. They want to dictate to us what it is they're going to do, and they want us to give at the same time. It just doesn't work that way. And at the end of the day, again, I can't emphasize this enough. The purpose, the mission of the church is the salvation of souls. But ever since the 1960s, they've been on this kick for trying to wed the church to worldly pursuits. It doesn't work. It's oil and water. It doesn't work.
Yesterday was interesting, or last night and early this morning was an interesting turn of events for Pope Francis's health updates. It seems like they're trying to indicate now, and some people are actually, I've seen some other reportage to say that they're hearing from their contacts that he's going to survive this, that he's going to leave that hospital. He's going to go back to the Vatican and go back to work necessarily. And yet there are other rumors suggesting that he might resign from the chair. Even Cardinal Mueller, in that article over at LifeSite News, even he seemed to say, nope, he shouldn't retire. He should not resign. He should stay in the chair. So where do you stand on that? How do you see all the rumors surrounding his health? Do you think he's going to survive? Do you think he's near the end? Do you think he's going to resign? What do you think?
Well, I think it's a combination of everything. On the one hand, it's very clear that he is in a very precarious, very delicate health situation, and that his health in general is in decline. So there is a serious possibility that he could be in his last hours, last days, weeks, months, whatever it is. We don't really know. I mean, we're being given indications, but we don't really know. On the other hand, I think that there is a very real possibility that he might consider resigning, just to make sure that there's no confusion and there's a perpetuation of whatever it is he's trying to do. I think it would be absolutely disastrous for him to resign. I think that's a terrible, terrible thing. If you look at what happened after Pope Benedict resigned, there was a lot of confusion among Catholics, and there's a growing suspicion that there was U.S. State Department involvement in forcing him to resign, which would have invalidated his resignation, which subsequently would have invalidated the conclave. You also have Catholics that are suspicious that maybe he didn't resign properly, that maybe the way that he put together the resignation papers and declared his resignation was not free and open, because some say that he reserved the munus of the papacy, or he resigned the munus, but he kept some aspect of the papacy for himself. It doesn't work that way, but that confusion is the problem. And if Pope Francis were to resign, it's going to perpetuate that confusion, and I think it would create a greater fissure in the church. It's not something that he should do.
Yeah, that's something I talked about often when Benedict XVI actually did retire, because he kept the white cassock. He had a ring on his hand. He had the titles. Cardinals would visit him. It's like, that's just confusing, versus going back to live in Germany the rest of your days in a black cassock or something along those lines. If Francis did that, if he went back to Argentina, which, by the way, he's never been back to Argentina in his entire pontificate. Not once has he ever gone home. But if he went home, put on the black cassock, that'd be okay, right?
Again, I think that I think any form of resignation is only going to cause further confusion. I don't think that there's anything good to be gained from a resignation. As much as I have concerns about this current papacy,
right.
I am very reticent about the idea of resignation. I think that it's just going to cause more problems.
But I think that's also the reason why I think it might happen, because it seems like confusing things, making things far more complicated than they need to be, is the order of the day in the times that we live in. Which brings me to the article I saw over at the stream.org. Cardinals could collude to elect an anti-Trump successor to Pope Francis. One of the things we've been seeing over these last, I guess now 13 days that Pope Francis has been in the hospital, is a lot of activity with cardinals talking about a potential conclave. And it's become a bigger and bigger conversation around the world. Everybody, especially now that the movie Conclave is going to possibly win an Oscar. It's amazing how much this world, who hates Christ and his church, at the same time is very concerned who runs the Church of Christ. You know what I mean? It seems really interesting to me. But how do you see the lineup here of those that are potentials to come out of the next conclave as the Pope? Some are saying Hollerich. I mean, I think that would be a bad deal. Parolin would be a bad deal. I think most of those that are on this list are not ones we would want to see. Maybe there's a couple of sleepers or surprises, but not likelies. What do you say?
I think that's probably accurate, unfortunately. The cards, as it were, definitely seem stacked. We have a stacked deck against any kind of real orthodoxy coming out of the next conclave. So there's a very definite problem there. But I'm not going to dismiss the possibility that we could see an immense and sudden reversal in things that would be extremely surprising. You know, the God of surprises, right? But what we see consistently throughout Scripture, throughout the history of the church, is that God loves the underdog, and he loves it when the devil seems to have the upper hand. And it goes all the way back to the story of Elias. You know, Elias, when he fought the priests of Baal, what happened? He thought he was the last of the prophets. He thought that he was the last one. And he was ready to give up. But he was instructed, go to these priests, you know, condemn these priests of Baal. And he did. He stood up and he said, okay, go ahead and build up your big pile of wood and set up an altar, and I'll do the same thing. And whoever's God lights the fire, that's the real God. And he made it so impossible by human hands for his own pile of wood to be caught on fire. I mean, he doused water all over it. He put a moat around it. It looked dark. It looked grim for Elias. But what happened? He started to make a prayer. He called upon Almighty God from the heavens, and then this fire bolt came down from heaven, annihilated his altar. And it showed absolutely that God himself was in command. When it comes to the papacy and it comes to the church, there's a very good and holy priest who once said that it's not as if these men snuck into the Vatican and stole the keys of St. Peter out from under the nose of God. It's his church. He knows what's going on. He knows how to handle things. And I'm not going to dismiss the possibility that while this looks like it's outside of human hands, it's very much inside God's hands. And we have to pray and sacrifice and work towards that.
Well said. We have to be salted with the fires of purgatory, either in this life or in the next. So we're going to go to break. We're going to come back and continue the conversation with Michael Hichborn from Lepanto Institute. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere. Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain. So good to be on with you. Praise be to God. We're having a conversation about turning point here of sorts. Is there a turning point in Pope Francis's health? Could he recover? Rumors are starting to suggest that he might. People are saying, my sources are telling me he's gonna survive this. We've been praying for his health, praise be to God, but we're also praying for a turning point in the church, a turning point back to tradition, to what has been handed on from one generation down to our own in apostolic succession, as St. Paul would say, from word of mouth or by letter, a turning point back to fidelity, a turning point back to making that salt savory again. Praise be to God. We'll have to see how it goes. Michael Hichborn is our guest from Lepanto Institute. And I was looking at this article from Jules Gomez at the stream. I'm going to link to it in the show notes. Cardinals could collude to elect an anti-Trump successor to Pope Francis. And Michael, welcome back. Here's one of the things that really got me on this article. It was Jules Gomez points out that the synodal star Mario Gretsch is the progressives' favorite candidate for the next pontificate. And here's why I found that interesting, is because when I checked out the collegeofcardinalsreport.com website, Edward Penton, Diane Montagna, he's not on their list of papably. He's not. This is like a sleeper for the hard left. This is like the guy from the St. Gallen Mafia that nobody's paying attention to. Oh, look over there. It's Cardinal Hollerich. Look over there. It's Parolin. And then Gretsch is in the shadow over here. That seems rather interesting to me, doesn't it to you?
It's interesting. We have to remember that this is not a popular vote among the population of Catholics. This is something that it's a discussion that's taken place among the cardinals themselves. So the question is, how well known is Gretsch among the other cardinals? Not really how much is he known among the general population of Catholics. And yeah, we as faithful Catholics understand that Mario Gretsch is rather progressive in his ideas and thinking, very unorthodox, we shall say. But and he may be a dark horse, but I don't know how popular he would be among the other cardinals. That's a big question, and I don't know. I can't answer that.
Well, he runs the synodality, and so he's definitely on that team. And it would seem that that's been part of what Pope Francis has been trying to do, is to ensure that whatever he's had started in his pontificate gets to continue in the next. And getting a guy like that in the chair would certainly ensure that, would it not?
It could. Again, if you look at the way the Synod on Synodality has gone, it hasn't exactly been a ringing success. There have been there's been a lot of kind of resistance to this idea of synodality. There hasn't been a whole lot of participation by faithful Catholics in the various regional meetings, and while the Synod claims to be this open-ended thing for all Catholics to participate in, the fact of the matter is it's been kind of a top-down approach. Well, here's what we've decided. I didn't make that decision. How are you telling me that this is a decision that all of us are making when I had no part in this? So
Right.
I don't know that the Synod has really been all that successful. And again, the other cardinals are looking at this, and I think some of them are probably thinking, this was kind of a dumb exercise. Why are we doing this?
Yeah, I would hope so, for sure. I saw this other story. I did report on it in the news break. Tulsi Gabbard fires 100 plus NSA officials involved in sexually graphic secret group chat. The reason why this kind of stuck out to me as linked to all these other stories is we're living in such a time that we see corruption at almost every single level of society. It's in the church. It's in every section of government, in our neighborhoods, in our own personal lives. We're seeing, where are we at on the clock here? I know we don't know the day or the hour in which Christ will come again in the end times, but it feels like there's nothing left to corrupt. Everything is experiencing that corruption at this point, to include Holy Mother Church. Am I just being naive and we've always been that way? What say you?
No, it's definitely worse. And when people want to talk about the timeline of events and where we stand in terms of salvation history, I always like to point out the fact that we are living in a very unique time in the history of the world. I mean, for crying out loud, you and I are communicating through open windows that move, and we are using communication devices from hundreds of miles away. So the fact that we have a unique technology to reach a large number of people, we have a unique ability to move finances, we have a unique ability to spread corruption and error and all the other problems that we've been seeing kind of explode over the last 100 years. This mass communication technology that we have, I think, is key to the devil's tool for changing things. But on the other hand, those of us who conserve things, who look to orthodoxy, who look to sustain the truths of the church and the true teachings, we are now catching up. And through, like your radio station and my institute, what we're doing now is kind of turning the tide, and we're pushing back. It's a reconquista. It's a counter revolution. And through this technology, we can also fight back against the encroaching errors and corruption that you're pointing out. So where we are on the timeline, it's hard to say in terms of, prophetic ideas and
right.
what the general history of salvation is. But I do think that we are in a unique period, and that's what we need to focus on.
So with that in mind, then, what would you say going in? Lent starts next week? I mean, good grief, it's already right around the corner. So going into Lent, the season of Lent, how would you recommend we spend our Lenten penance in light of the Pope's health and potentially his death, the next conclave, the next Pope, the scandals in the church and outside the church and the world itself? How do we maximize our Lent to be of good use to God and to his design for mankind?
Well, the most important thing is for us to remember, or to consider, this may be the very last Lent that I have in this lifetime. It's my last opportunity to offer myself in a worthy way to our Lord for all of the sins of my own life, for all of the sins of my family's lives, and just to offer my sacrifices and penances for the good of the church, for the good of society. That's what we should focus on, because salvation is not collective. Salvation is between you and God, and Lent is a time of purification for yourself that can then extend to others. But you have to start with the self. And if you don't, well, you're part of the collective problem. You're thinking it too broad of a term. You should also make sure that you remember that Lent is a marathon. It's a distance run, not a sprint. So if you start off too strong, you're going to get weary, a quarter of the way through, halfway through, and you're going to start slacking off. Better that you should start slow, introduce certain penances, and increase them as you go along. So I think that that's probably the best approach to Lent and the best way to consider what it is that you're offering your sacrifices for, and through those goods, God will draw a greater good. But it starts with just working on yourself.
Okay, so we should wait to flog ourselves, hair shirt first, kneel on broken glass last half of Lent. That's just what I heard. I don't know what else you said, but I think that's what I heard when you said that. Like ease into it somewhat. Praise be to God. I think that's important just because, and I'm joking, but as we're running out of time here, but I think there's going to be more stories coming in the headlines that will scandalize the faithful. And I think people are going to get very anxious about certain things happening in the world around us. And I think we should be at peace no matter what happens. Don't you agree?
I do. Our Lord said scandals have to happen. Scandals are going to happen. But woe to those by whom the scandals come. So we focus on not scandalizing people, and then we can also focus on not being scandalized.
And being awake and not woke, praise be to God. Coming up in the after show, I want to get into this clip that's been going viral right now of Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu hanging out on the beach in an AI-generated Gaza Riviera type of video. That's so crazy. I want to talk about that in the after show. Otherwise, we'll see you right back here tomorrow morning. We're going to have a conversation about near-death experiences. We'll see you there.
The Station of the Cross began broadcasting in Buffalo, New York in 1999. Since then, our listening areas have multiplied and expanded into several states. While our mission is to grow the Catholic faith through radio and other media outlets, our apostolate is supportive of but independent from your local diocese. Through your generosity, we are able to inspire countless listeners with the gospel and help lead them to a parish to be spiritually nourished by the sacraments.
And we're back. Welcome to the after show, everyone. And as you'll notice, the music actually ended on time in that last segment, the way it's supposed to.
Improvements.
Unlike the segment before.
Improvements. Jake, what are you doing trolling us in the Telegram group, Jake? 1 minute, it's like Pope Francis is he's healed. He's doing jumping jacks in the hospital room. The next minute, he's still canceling things and in critical condition. Could you just make up your mind?
Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just reporting the news.
Pick a side.
I am just stealing all the hard work that the reporters in Rome have been doing. That's all I'm doing.
It's what it is.
If you got a problem with them, take it.
I can't take the yo-yo-ness of the story. It's too darn much.
That's the thing is I wish they would just be a little more open about, like, if they're hopeful for his recovery, I'd like to hear just a little bit more of that, so we have like an actual
that's
more
exactly
of a hopeful. Our prognosis is reserved, but we're very hopeful.
Right.
If there was more of that, then I would be more inclined to disregard the rumors when they say, "Oh, he's not out of the woods yet, and things are looking bad." But now, ever since the report yesterday, suddenly people are like, "Oh yeah, I have a reliable source that says that's been adamant that he's going to recover. I have a source in the hospital that says he's dancing jigs every morning or whatever." It's like
I can't.
Okay, and so other people said they had sources in the hospital that said his prognosis was really bad.
Right.
Like whose secret special
Even
sources
Raymond
are the
Dorio
most
made that
trustworthy?
claim.
Yeah, he the fact that he stepped out and made that prediction, not prediction, but that report, like that's kind of sticking his neck out a little bit. Is like that he's got sources that are saying that.
Yeah.
So it's very weird. I
just wanted all I ever wanted them to say was, listen, we don't know how this is going to turn out. We know we're working towards healing him and getting him back, to a healthy state. We're confident we can do it, but we just don't know. Like if they'd have said that, I would have been fine. But
yeah,
this whole,
every single day of like almost the exact same language and like overly clinical language, like the CT scan showed normal evolution of the pulmonary infection or whatever it was, or inflammation.
What, like that's normal? That's not normal.
Pneumonia can normally result in death. Is that what's happening? Or is it normally like responding to the treatment and healing? Like I wish if they could just be a little more clear, I'd have more, inclination to just trust them and say, oh, okay, they're healing him and they're pretty hopeful he'll get better. Like, that'd be great. Yeah. But instead they're dragging it out, and it feels very much like, I don't know, like what the heck is going on, really?
Yeah, exactly.
Frustrating.
I feel like a pawn in someone else's game, and I hate that feeling. That's my issue. Michael, thanks for hanging out with us today. Let me ask you, have you seen this video that Donald Trump shared on his Truth Social account? It's an AI-generated video of his vision for Gaza. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I saw the video. Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, can I play it and then we can comment on that? Because I have a few comments about this. Jake, can you put my my screen up for me, please?
Yep. There we go.
Okay, I don't know if you guys have seen this. I'll link to it in the show notes so you can watch it for yourself if you want to. But this is us reacting to whoever's AI video that Donald Trump apparently loves. I'm going to turn that music down. It's probably like is this T Swizzle's song? I have no idea.
No more tunnels. No more.
Okay,
fear.
can I just? I gotta pause this and just back this thing up for a second. You need to see this for yourself. Okay, there's some very disturbing AI things in this video. Hold on, see if I can catch it. Elon has never looked that good.
Disturbing.
Yeah, exactly.
Elon Musk has never looked that good while also eating all the food he can possibly eat. Why is he depicted as only eating food in this video? That's one question. Okay, this clip right here. Apparently, ladies doing some sort of belly dance thing on the beach in Gaza. However, these ladies aren't just your average ladies. They have beards.
Yeah, aren't they bearded ladies? The AI doesn't know. The AI doesn't.
That's the most disturbing thing ever. Like, who decided to create bearded ladies doing belly dancing on the beach?
It's DAI.
Lydia, the encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Lydia, the bearded lady.
And then there's the whole Trump resort, and Trump's being depicted as a fat Trump dancing with another belly dancing lady. Where's his wife in all of this? Or I guess his most current wife is what I meant to say. And then there's cash flowing from the sky. There's that Elon eating again. And then there's the giant idol, the golden idol of Donald Trump.
Is every statue an idol? Are you an iconoclast, Joe?
No, I'm picky and choosy. I pick and choose which statues are idols and which ones aren't. And I'm going all in on this one is an idol. See, because it's followed up with all the other idols of Donald Trump.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
All made of gold, of course.
Statues of Donald Trump.
Money falling from the sky. And there you go. Donald Trump and Bibi hanging out on the beach in Gaza. Trump, Gaza. Are the Gazans allowed to live there? That's one of my questions right away. How about the Christians that live in Gaza who are being persecuted by the Israeli government? Are they allowed to live there, or do they have to pack their bags and leave too? That's one of my questions. Because already the Israeli government is trying to confiscate Christian property that's been in the hands of Christians for hundreds of years to auction it off. And we're all just going to be like, oh, but that's just, we still should give our money to Israel. What's going on? Michael, how do you react to all of this?
Well, I'm probably going to anger a lot of people. But my general disposition towards the Middle East is that we should have nothing to do with the Middle East.
We should just be hands off completely. Let them do whatever they're going to do.
I mean, why do we have to be the world's police force? Why are we constantly going and putting out pocket fires? And the Middle East is our biggest concern. But, you know, the United States has been dragged into all kinds of different pocket fires all over the world. And after a while, you get weary. And I just think, you know, America for America, we should be looking out for ourselves. We should be working on ourselves and getting involved in all of these different conflicts all over the world and paying so much attention on the Middle East. I'm a hands-off kind of guy. Let them do what they're going to do. if we want to have a crusade, if we want to say, okay, Catholics, man up, go arm up and start taking back the Holy Land, I'm all for that. We should, if we're going to get involved in Catholic conflicts, great. I'm all for that. But this geopolitical stuff drives me nuts.
It does. And it's been what we've been doing now for a long time. And we forced Japan to open their harbor and trade up to us, right? We sailed into their harbor, and you will trade with us. Well, like, wait, who are we again exactly? We landed a battalion Marines on Hawaii, and we said, you are going to become part of the United States. I mean, we forced the Plains Indians from one location to a next until it suits us, suits our fancy. Like we have a great reputation of implementing American geopolitics by force. And we've been doing it a very long time. And I think that's rather insane. Like we shouldn't be okay with that. Well, like, so when I hear make America great again, I ask, well, define for me when America was actually great. Not that I love my country. I served the Marine Corps. My family's very military. So I love my country, but I don't love the immorality of the geopolitics that has been the mode going back a very long time. Abraham Lincoln raised an army and invaded the South. 600,000 people died as a result to keeping the Union together.
Right. Well, just look at the history of the Philippines. Look at the history of the Rough Riders, Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders, and look at what they were doing when they went into the sugarcane fields, and they secured the sugarcane fields for American interests.
Right.
There has been a war of conquest for resources from the United States almost since her inception. So I think that, again, it's the whole international globalist geopolitical. It's enough to make your head swim, and quite honestly, I'm weary of it. So,
well, let me ask you this:
yeah,
let's just say we backed out somehow, some way. We convinced Donald Trump that this geopolitics stuff needs to end, and he goes, you're right, and we totally leave all the Middle East, no embassies, no secret CIA safe houses, none of it. We're totally out, hands off. What happens next?
Probably the same thing that's been happening for a couple thousand years over there. You'll have different groups and different nations over in the Middle East. They'll fight. They'll conquer, and then they'll back off, and then there will be a swing in the other direction, and they'll continue to fight. And it's just there has not been peace in the Middle East in the history of ever. So
yeah.
I think it'll just be business as usual. It'll continue on and continue on and continue on. There will be gains in one area, but then there will be losses a few years later. I don't see much changing.
It's a complicated mess, that's for sure. I'm just not in favor of Israel seeing itself as Joshua surrounding Jericho. That ship has sailed. Your covenant has been fulfilled by Jesus. You no longer have the mandate to harem warfare and cleansing that you were asked to do that after you broke the covenant 3 times. That's when you were asked to go and rid the land of these people. Before that, you were to convert those people. And now you haven't done that either. So I'm not in favor of pretending like they are Joshua surrounding Jericho and the walls got to come tumbling down. Nope, sorry, I'm not up for that. So the idea of taking Gaza back, kicking out the Palestinians just because you don't like them, is I'm not okay with that. I'm also on the flip side of that, not okay with Hamas killing Israelis. Sorry, I'm not okay with that either. None of you people should be killing anybody. You should all learn to live in peace with your neighbor, but that's certainly not what they're going to do. And I think if we were to pull out, I honestly think it would just get worse. If I had my way, I would say Israel must be governed by a Christian kingdom, which thank you, England, for selling us down the river on that deal. You fought to take Gaza in 1917, and then you just turned around and gave it away. You're the best, England. Here's to you.
Once again, I say, if we want to have a Catholic crusade, where the Catholic Church steps in and says, this is Catholic territory, and we need to reclaim it for the Catholic Church, and we need to reclaim it for Catholics because this land, it's patrimony from the Old Testament all the way through Christ, all the way afterward. It's Catholic. It's a Catholic land. It belongs to the Catholic Church. If we want to do that, I'm all for it. But in terms of geopolitics, all you're doing is playing nanny to a bunch of people trying to get their own piece of the little pie. And I can't care about that. I can care about the church, but the geopolitics and the taking sides and saying, oh, you're a naughty boy, but you're a good boy, and we're going to take sides on that when all of their hands are dirty. I can't.
Yeah. But okay, so this is the thing about Donald Trump that I don't think people like to hear, because they want to believe Donald Trump is, perfect, and he's clearly not perfect. He's far from it.
No.
And this is a great example. He took a lot of money from very Israel pro only donors during his campaign, and promises made, promises kept. And I think this is part of that. He is now having to come good on promises he made to those big Israeli donors, and they want Gaza, and they're ready to send Israelis into the Strip to populate it, just like they have in other parts of contested land in Israel. And here's the kicker: there is those families, those settlers, husbands, wives, children. Are they going to be slaughtered again in the future? Like that, it's so insane to me. They're going to send them in like pawns, and they're only going to be slaughtered in yet another October surprise. Like, it seems immoral to me.
It is. It is. And the whole situation is immoral. I mean, for crying out loud, what is Israel trying to do? Why does Israel exist as a nation anyway? It exists as a nation because it was promised to the Jews after the Second World War, and it was propped up artificially and handed over to the Jews. And the question is why? So they could rebuild the temple. That's the purpose. That's the whole end game over there.
It is.
Rebuilding the temple is not a Christian idea. In fact, it's a very anti-Christian idea.
That's right. That's
so.
Right.
If you look at the geopolitics from a Protestant Christian perspective, they're trying to help the Israelis rebuild the temple because they want to bring about the apocalypse, because they want to be raptured, and it becomes this heretical mess that they're trying to drag the Catholic Church into, and that's why I'm so reticent to get involved.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, how involved actually are we right now? Like physically, like what's actually been done besides
Mostly
posting
financial.
AI videos? Like, has anything actually happened?
Well, we continue to fund Israel. Now, someone said earlier, let Israel defend itself. I think the reality is, they could do a good job. Clearly, they've shown their gumption and fortitude to stand up to their enemies. But without our financial contribution to them, can they go the distance? That's the question. I'm not 100% sure they can.
You have to remember, Israel.
So I think to answer involvement, we're giving money. Say that again.
I mean, Israel is basically a socialist state, and its entire defense budget is being paid for by the United States.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most vax states too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm not for it, man. I'm just.
No.
I mean, hands off, I think would be the next best option, I suppose. But I think the best option is Christendom needs to govern Israel, and someone needs to be a parent in the room and keep these two siblings from killing each other. But we've clearly picked sides here, and I think that's definitely a part of the problem. But I don't trust America to be that governing body, just because we aren't truly a Christian nation. There's lots of Christians here. And we have some semblance of Christianity embedded into our culture, but we aren't truly a Christian nation. In fact, American history is an anti-Catholic history, the party of the Know-Nothings, or the Protestants out of Delaware that invaded Maryland and slaughtered Catholics. And So, I mean, there's just a profound history against Holy Mother Church. All those Texians that came rushing in from America into Texas territory, to Mexico territory, who became Catholics, also, plundered Catholic churches because they weren't really Catholics. They were anti-Catholic bigots, and they just wanted to take from Mexico what they thought should belong to America. Janice, good morning to you. Jen Nugent, Sharon, Mary, and Robert. Have I told you guys are amazing? You're amazing. A T Storm, good morning to you. Praise be to God. Mike Koniger is here. Karen Collins, good morning. Praise be to God. Paul, our friend from Buffalo. Becky, good morning to you, Becky. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Damon here from the deep frozen north tundra of Dallas, Fort Worth. Glad to have you on the team. Praise be to God. James 16897 from sunny Romania. Speaking of Romania, isn't that where the Tate brothers live? They got on a plane and left. I don't know. I don't follow the Tate brothers all that much, but it seems to me like he should be in jail. Just saying. Mateus, good morning to you from sunny California. Good morning. Praise be to God. I don't know. Do you have any opinion on the Tate brothers at all, Michael Hichborn?
I haven't followed them, and I know that they've got kind of a social media following, but I have no idea really who they are. I'm not a fan. They're not somebody I've ever followed, so I don't know much about them.
Jake, do you follow the Tate brothers?
I'm aware of them. Every so often I see a certain ugly face come across X making a horrible, dumb take on something. So.
Horrible and dumb take.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so we don't know.
They're basically
really
just hedonists. They try and have a veneer of sort of pagan macho, promotion.
Yeah.
A little bit like the Bronze Age mindset type of deal, but even more dumbed down and less philosophical. So
what's his name left the Christian faith and became a Muslim?
Did Tate do that? Andrew Tate?
Well, not Tristan, the other one. Is it Andrew?
Tate.
Andrew, Andrew. He became a Muslim.
Except I don't think he's even like an actual Muslim. I think he still drinks like all this. It's just, it's all just LARPing.
Worse
it's
now,
all just
right?
LARPing.
It's LARPing.
So anyway, and it looks like they've done some pretty shady stuff. Whether it's been proved or not.
Yeah, big time.
I'm in favor of keeping people like that imprisoned in a third world country as opposed to putting more of them in America. We need fewer of them, not more.
Few less, not more. All right.
Yeah.
Yvonne, good morning. Kilroy Jones, Evelyn, Alberto, good morning to you. Damien, good morning to you. Yvonne, I see you there. BP Coke says, Joe, speaking of Texas independence, I'm sure you've been to the San Jacinto Monument. I have many times and seen all the stone cutter decor. Yeah, it's hard to miss, isn't it, when you go to the Texas independence site? Clearly, the Freemasons designed all of that, just like they did in Washington, D.C., because it's an actual mirror of the Washington Monument is what they have at San Jacinto. They got the mirror lake and everything. It's pretty crazy. But welcome to the team. Restore Justice. Good morning. The devil for sure is working overtime in the world today and yesterday and for sure tomorrow. True. Lil Daisy says, who are the Tate brothers? It's not that important, Lil Daisy. It's probably not something you should spend much time on today. Douglas Remigius, good morning to you from cloudy Maryland. Man, too bad Maryland. We'd like to make Maryland Catholic again. That'd be amazing. Praise be to God. The coolest thing about the coolest thing about Maryland, in my opinion, is it was a Catholic colony at a time that they were hunting priests and dragging them out of holes back in the homeland in England. Like that's pretty cool, actually. Like they were allowed to practice their faith to some degree in a way that they could not practice in England itself at the same time, which is part of the reason why there was such an anti-Catholic bias here in the colonies, because they couldn't stand that. And when what's his name had his little revolution there in England, that's when they really came after those Catholics in Maryland. Some of them had to escape to places like Virginia and other parts just to kind of get away from it all. And several moved west towards Kentucky to find further freedom. But then that meant no access to the sacraments, which is another mind-blowing thing to me. Is I don't know how Catholics make that decision. You how do you live without the sacraments? I don't know. I'm not sure, but some of them, they certainly did. Jackson Pickney, good morning to you. Says, good morning, Joe. Amazing times to be alive, gentlemen. And the actual adults of today. Lord have mercy. That's an interesting thing. Do you think we could ever force the Vatican to do a true audit of its books? I mean, everybody who's ever tried, Pell, Vigano, it never worked well for them. It didn't end well for any of those guys.
It's not going to happen.
Never.
It's not going to happen.
Oh, man.
I just don't see it happening ever.
God help them. Christine OFS, good morning to you. It's Winter Wonderland in Ontario, Canada. Kilroy Jones again. Good morning, Deborah. Good morning, Gregory. I see you there. Good morning. How about Jesus coming back? I think that is not in this conversation. About Jesus coming back? Do we think he's coming back? Like, do you mean to say, do we think he's coming back soon? Or that he's coming back at all? He's definitely coming back. And he comes back at a day and a time when we do not expect. And he comes back at a time where faith is wanting on planet Earth. Mm-hmm. And can we not say that faith seems to be wanting a wee bit in planet Earth today? Sure, certainly there's still a lot of faithful people.
Do we expect it?
Yeah, we do.
Because some of us do. I think the vast majority, as they say, when the cat is away, the mice will play.
Yeah.
We're in that situation where a lot of people are going, he's not coming back.
We are. I definitely see that. That's true. Here's another question. How many people think Donald Trump is the Antichrist and Elon Musk is his prophet? Because that was flying about yesterday on Twitter, on X.
I saw that.
I saw Dr. Stein laying down the law on that one.
No, the thing is, look, as much as I appreciate what Donald Trump is doing, and I really, really appreciate Doge, Trump and Musk act a lot. They act a lot like a couple of really old frat boys.
Exactly.
And
yes.
I don't think the Antichrist and his false prophet are going to be a couple of frat boys. It's just not happening.
Yep.
Man, oh man, it's there. But isn't this part of the problem, though? Michael Hichborn, is we like the fireworks. We love watching the fight. We like watching the destruction, the explosions of it all. We love seeing Donald Trump troll his enemies. We love seeing Elon Musk get his way and then, troll his enemies. We like seeing the left go absolutely bonkers. Mm-hmm. It's like pure entertainment. Are we wrong for liking that? That's the question, I guess.
No.
Are we being a wee bit immature
if all the world
enjoying the suffering of our enemy?
There are people who claim that like all world events are just wrestling kayfabe. It's all just scripted or whatever. So like, why not just enjoy the script then? Like to me, it's pretty fun. I find it very entertaining. I find it very entertaining.
Should we be enjoying that entertainment is the question.
Sure.
Or I mean like it's one thing to understand its purpose and the times you live in or whatever. It's another to really take pleasure in it. Is it guilty pleasure?
There's a difference between Schadenfreude, which is where you actually take delight in the downfall of others, and taking delight in the victory over a certain ideology. Mm-hmm. That's different. So Schadenfreude is saying, yeah, that's right. Go get Joe Biden and lock him up and then let's torture him and and then laughing about it and thinking how wonderful it is. That's Schadenfreude. But taking delight in the victory, I think, is really a very Christian idea. And looking at the destruction of DEI and taking delight in that, there's no problem there. Mm-hmm. Looking at the destruction of USAID, which is a major aspect of the funneling of funds to the globalist elites, there's nothing but delight to be taken in that.
Yeah.
And then mocking the ideas of the DEI, mocking the ideas of the woke, mocking the ideas of the globalists. There's nothing wrong with that. Mockery is not an intrinsically bad thing. But should we take delight in an individual's downfall? No, we should take that very seriously, and we should look at the individual and say, okay, justice needs to be done. And justice also demands that we do what we can for the salvation of that individual's soul, so that they don't die in the state of the justice that they're facing here in this world.
Yep. But there's also just the fact that we've had so few victories over the last long time, and a lot of people are now like afraid. They see something good happen and they're terrified that, well, it's actually something bad. Like, oh, that good thing that happened?
That's right.
It's actually all part of a bad plot. They're trying to trick you. It's like, you can just enjoy something good happening, even if there's other stuff that's happening that's not good. You can have, even if the net is overall looking negative, maybe, you can at least have fun with the good stuff, and you never know what that's going to prompt or inspire as far as more good stuff happening. Instead of just like anything good that happens, well, that's just lining me up for something bad. Like that's a pretty terrible and I think anti-Christian way to go through life. Like so, like every good thing that happens, like instead of it being a blessing from God, is actually just you being wound up to try and kick the football and then get it yanked out from under you. Like that. Don't go through life being a Charlie Brown like that. Like
we're all just going for clicks anyway. It doesn't matter. Speaking of which, Anthony is on the team today in the chat box from Avoiding Babylon. Praise be to God. Anthony, welcome to the team. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Shouldn't you be at work though, Anthony? Shouldn't you be on the clock? Paving.
He's on his commute.
Buddy, come on now. Focus before your foreman finds out. I don't want to get you in trouble. Hey, Mona Lopez says there is a Jewish lobbyist assigned to every congressman except Massey. Is that true? I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if you were Israel, wouldn't you want to lobby for your best interest? I mean, it seems reasonable to me that that's the case. For the same reason, I said yesterday that the intelligence apparatus of America has long since tried to involve itself in the conclaves that happen at the Vatican. They clearly have a dog in the race, and they want to make sure that their best interests are first and foremost, and whoever gets the chair of St. Peter. And I would agree. I would also think that that's true for all foreign intelligence operations. They would want to influence however much they can the outcomes of papal elections for their sake. But in the case of the CIA, we know in particular that they wrote memorandums trying to influence Paul VI getting the job, which he did, of course. So it's all. I think it's all, above board in the sense that, it's obvious they're trying to do that. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Israel, like China, highly influencing members of Congress, right? I mean, the whole honeypot thing is a daily occurrence on Capitol Hill, let's just say. I know I was going to say, I've forgotten and now I remembered. So are we going to be bad Catholics if we gloat when Bishop Athanasius Schneider becomes Pope Pius XIII at this next conclave next week? And would we be gloating, and would that be bad if we did, that he starts reversing all of the DEI, the synodal way? I mean, or should we
is it gloating to sing a Te Deum?
If that's the case, then then count me a bad Catholic.
Do we just do golf claps and go, here?
No, what we say is, clearly this is a plot by the Freemasons and by Israel to set us up for thinking something good is happening, and then he's going to turn out to usher in the Antichrist. That's what's going to happen, because we're not allowed anything good. People don't have agency. People don't have any ability to actually choose to do the right thing. God doesn't have any effect on like turning things to go his way, especially when they feel darkest. No, they're in control. It's the evil. They are in control of everything, and they make all the choices. We have no.
This is why we
have
can't
no
have
ability
nice
to change
things.
Right. Such a like a I don't know, like a dark and depressing way to go through life.
Christine says, "Darn straight, we will gloat." But give praise to God first.
Yeah,
okay,
it's not gloating to sing a Te Deum nonstop, for a week.
Yeah, buddy. What you smoking, Joe? Says restore justice. What do you mean about Athanasius Schneider getting the nod? Come on, all things are possible with God. Have faith, man. Polachicho, mi amigo, brother. Good morning, and thanks for hanging out with us. As I pray that whomever becomes the Pope allows for Bishop Strickland to return. That's a distinct possibility, depending if Mueller were to get the nod, I feel like Mueller is more of middle ground. It's a potential he could get that nod. And if he does, I could also see how Mueller might bring back a Strickland. He might bring back the bishop from Puerto Rico that got fired, or the bishop in Tennessee that got fired. And there's a whole list of them that got fired. And I could definitely see how they could be brought back. The question is, if he brings them back, will all of those Catholics who have now expressed so much vitriol for Strickland for being so, against the church and heretical and schismatic, are they going to apologize if the next pope brings them back? Doubtful.
I'm more interested to hear how the ultramontanists react when the Pope starts doing things that, if the Pope ever does anything even remotely hinting at non-synodal or conservative or traditional. Like, it'll be interesting to see how all the Pope-splainers get are they going to end up just Pope-splaining away the why it's okay to disobey the Pope? Like so many of their kind did under JP2 or Benedict. It'll be interesting to see the reaction if it's not
magisterium
a complete continuation of Francis II. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
my
when the rule is actually that when the current magisterium contradicts your favorite magisterium wins out. So we have to go with what Francis said, not Pius XIII.
Yeah, think about all those priests that are in canonical purgatory right now. There's Clay Hunt, Father Clay Hunt from West Texas. He's in canonical purgatory. It's the whole new. It's the process is the punishment these days. They don't just laicize you and send you off, let you go free. No. They keep you in purgatory. They keep you in this process hell where you are stuck, waiting for your trial, waiting for your case to be resolved, waiting for the Vatican to weigh in, and it never happens. You're never allowed to go anywhere. You're not, and if you do, then you're the schismatic. You're the bad one. And that's true for many priests. So there are, I see some names like Father Pavone, Father Altman. There's a ton of priests that are in this category. They have never been laicized. They still are legitimate priests, but they had their faculties removed. They're not assigned to anywhere. They have to go figure out how to feed themselves.
Was laicized.
I know, but I'm talking about other priests. I'm talking about this other category. I see his name being mentioned there among others, but there's a whole category of priests that are in this canonical hell. And it would be nice in the next pontificate to see those folks, those priests, have their cases all resolved and let them go back to their ministry. I'd love to see that. It's possible that Father Pavone could be reinstated to the priestly state. That's possible. The Pope could do that if he wanted to. Father Altman, yes, it's possible. I guess Father James Maudsley is another one of those cases. We'll see. It's all possible, but I'm going to be honest. I'm thinking it's not likely. Joanne Wright is on the team. Praise be to God. Joanne, co-founder of our apostolate. We would not be here doing this today if it wasn't for Joanne Wright. Thank you for your yes, Joanne. You're amazing. Praise be to God. It says progress it's the only purgatory they believe in. Yeah, I think that's true. Father Karapi for Pope. I don't know. I'm not on that team. Teresa, I hate to tell you. I have personal experience with Father Karapi and from a professional standpoint, and I got to say, I don't think I'd ever vote for him in a million years. I don't know, Mike. What do you say?
Technically, any Catholic male can be elected pope. So I'm waiting for Pope Jacob.
Oh, really? Why are you waiting for a Pope Jacob?
I would be a terrible pope.
Why would we want this?
No one wants this. First of all, I'd probably be around for like another 70 years because I smoke and I drink. So I'm going to live to be 100.
Right.
So you'll have 70 years of me, and I'm very single-minded on issues. So it would be so inefficient. We'd probably only get three things done, and they'd get done thoroughly, but we'd only get to like three different things that we'd get done, and they'd all just be really liturgically nerdy things. So all of the actual all the other efficiency with the curia and all the organization and like the stuff that involves having to deal with like reorganizing what's essentially a giant worldwide corporation, I'd be terrible at that. Like I wouldn't get an inch done in 70 years. So I'm a terrible choice. Terrible choice. You'd have wonderful papal liturgies for sure. You'd have really gorgeous papal liturgies, but absolutely nothing else would get done otherwise for 70 years. So
I don't know. I don't know. We'd have to fire the entire staff at the Vatican.
Yeah, exactly.
Shut the whole thing down and rebuild it from scratch. Could it survive it? Probably, but man, I don't know. It would be horrible. Do you agree? Like we're either going to get a guy who is progressive, modernist, but has no spine, or we're going to get a guy who is more middle of the road, more orthodox in theology and in philosophy, but has no spine. I find it highly unlikely we're going to get a guy with either one of those positions with a spine. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, I feel like whoever they put on that chair, he might bring us back towards the middle road, but probably is just going to be a tool for more shady tree characters in the shadows that are far more Godfather-like. Do you think that's fair?
Well, I'll say this. I don't think we're going to get a Francis II. I think that I think that ship has sailed. And I'll never forget reading an interview once where I think it was Edward Penton said that he had observed a conversation between a particular cardinal, unnamed, didn't say who it was, and Pope Francis, where they had a very loud, heated argument. And he said, this cardinal said, "We elected you to reform the church, not to destroy it." So I think that even among those who elected Pope Francis, there is kind of a buyer's regret, and that there won't be a Francis II. I think we're probably going to get somebody who's more center. We're going to get somebody who's, as you said, spineless, weak, or at least perceived that way.
Yeah. But they could surprise him.
Yeah.
I mean, they might pick a guy that they think they can control, no matter what his philosophy, theology is, but he turns out to be much stronger than they expected, and he could surprise everybody.
Pius IX was elected as a liberal, and he ended as a blessed and a staunch conservative on many, many issues. But he was elected to be a liberal pope in the age of revolutions and things.
Well, Pius X smoked cigarettes. Clearly a modernist.
He enjoyed cigars. He enjoyed cigars and snuff.
Is that what it was?
A lot of the popes. Actually, like of all tobacco, snuff is by far the most popular for saintly usage, including Padre Pio, who once was at a table with some folks at a conference and like wagged his finger at someone who smoked, and then turned to the person next to him and asked if he had any snuff. And Saint Therese of Lisieux, her habit was constantly stained with snuff. So, yep,
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, as Pope, we can decide to reverse canonization and all these stuff.
Yes, exactly.
We could do that.
Take that away. Hey, the Devil's Advocate tried to say that Saint Joseph of Cupertino wasn't as holy as he should have been because he smoked and I believe I can't remember if he drank coffee, but he smoked and took snuff quite a bit.
Well, coffee makes you holy.
Well, that's the thing. He smoked and took snuff quite a bit, and the Devil's Advocate brought that up, and the defender of St. Joseph successfully argued that it simply helped him stay awake longer for longer vigils, and it helped him fast for longer. So it was actually an aid to his holiness. And we have St. Joseph of Cupertino.
Yvonne, stop trying to encourage Pope Jacob here. Says my great-grandmother used snuff. She lived to 103.
Exactly. See?
He doesn't need your help, Yvonne, okay?
Bring it on.
Stop.
Bring it on.
What's next? We're all going to eat sugar next, too?
More anecdotal evidence.
Come now. Could you imagine Pope Jacob enforcing us to have to smoke, drink, and eat sugar all the time?
Exactly.
I mean, we do not need these things.
I'm starting to think this might be the greatest pontificate that's ever been.
Jane, good morning to you. It says, I'm sure Israel isn't the only one with lobbyists. Exactly. They're definitely in the mix, though. I can tell you that. Linda Ann Wheeler, good morning to you. Thanks for hanging out with us. Praise be to God. John Andrew Sustantia. How do I say your last name? Statatsia? I don't know. I'm not sure, but I'm glad you're here. Thanks for hanging out. Don Paddock, Lori Powell. Good morning. Junior Barra, a good friend from West Texas. iCatholic Radio was on the team today. Love having you here. Thank you for your support. Praise be to God. Elizabeth Ramirez, Mimi, good morning. Linda, good morning. Praise be to God. I'm glad you guys are on the team today. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Mavis Brown is here. I'm not sure, you commented something, but I have no idea how to. Is that like speaking in tongues? I don't even know how to read that. Like I wouldn't even try because it's so far beyond my capability. Mary and Robert say, I think because of what has gone on the last 4 years, it's nice to see things change. That's true. It is nice. But my only question is, where's the line between like being grateful, appreciative, happy, and gloating, being immature towards the thing? I think there's a meter somewhere in the middle. And I don't know. I think America is just a wee bit too immature, in my opinion, on the whole. And I worry about that. Sharon says, hey, friends, I'm going to start my day in earnest. See y'all later. Well, be good. Sharon, thanks for your support and being on the team. Have a great day. Praying everything goes well for you tonight. Praise be to God. Patty says, Google says snuff was a status symbol and a mark of refinement.
It could be. It was a finer quality of tobacco than like cheap chewing tobacco or cheap cigars.
I wouldn't even know where you could get it.
Oh, you can get it. They're still fine.
You can't get it at your general grocery store, right?
No, I know the Germans still make quite a lot of high quality stuff. A big deal used to be getting the way you carried around was in a nice snuff box. And so an elaborate, often jeweled or gilded snuff box, that was a common gift of prestige, that you would receive. You would get be gifted snuff boxes and things in the way that maybe now you'd be gifted watches and stuff. So quite a mark of status indeed.
We have the recipe, says Father Nix said, if the body is a temple to the Holy Spirit, might as well incense on occasion.
Exactly.
Oh, come on.
Sicut incensum.
Yes.
Now.
Yes.
My prayer rise like incense to you, our Lord.
Oh, boy. Alberto says, who's Ernest?
You ever seen Ernest?
Oh, boy. I'm trying to read some of these comments. They're funny. Mr. Snuffleupagus? Snuff. See what you've started, Jake? Like, this is... How do you live with yourself at night? I don't know. The Lost Creole, pre-revolution France made snuff popular.
Fumes. That's how I live.
Is that how it goes? I don't know. Drew Black, good morning to you. Thanks for being on the team today. Teresa is here. John Paul Sandoval, good morning to you. Albie is here. Good morning. Alexandria Hall, welcome back. Glad to see you here. Jake would be good to take to trivia. All right. Enough of Polish popes, says Lost Creole. Wow, shots fired.
He's campaigning against me.
Yeah. Which, by the way, reminds me, speaking of campaigning, so yesterday I watched a video with Malachi Martin on the firing line. 1978, JP1 had just been elected. And I shared it with our Telegram group, and we were conversating about it yesterday in our Telegram group. But Malachi Martin basically said that well before the conclave even starts, every faction has two things already decided. They have a policy that they expect the next pontificate to see to, and they have their guy. Well before they ever get into the same room with any other cardinal. And then he said in that interview, and we could link to it, I suppose, in the show notes if anybody's really interested, but just Malachi Martin firing line, William F. Buckley, 1978. He also said that when a man is elected, they first ask him, does he accept the policy? Before whether or not he accepts the papacy. I found that very interesting. And I guess he's got three options. One, he accepts it. Two, he doesn't want to be the Pope. Or three, he accepts it, but with his own slight take on it. I guess that's the only real answer to the question then, isn't it? Like, how else do you answer? If you want to be the Pope and you want to have control over the process, then you have to say yes, but you don't want to say yes to their terms. You want to say yes to your own terms. So I guess that's the only real answer if you want to take the job. But I found that very interesting. So how much lobbying do you think really goes on, Michael Hichborn? I mean, I know they do lobby, but to what extent do you think they go into the conclave already having figured all that out?
Well, we have to remember that Pope John Paul II outlawed any kind of campaigning prior to a conclave. So,
supposedly.
to the point that it was, what's that?
Yeah, I mean, he did, but nobody paid attention because McCarrick boasted about lobbying.
But that's the thing is that his directive with regard to how the conclave is to be conducted, he outlawed campaigning to the point that it would invalidate the conclave should it take place, which actually added to the confusion with regard to the election of Pope Francis, because you have the St. Gallen Mafia, who was actively campaigning and conspiring to put their guy in place.
Yeah.
There was talk that it was supposed to be Martini, but Martini was sick and wouldn't last long, and so they went with Bergoglio instead because he was Martini's protege. So it's I don't know, it's a sticky widget, and it's hard to say who does what and how they campaign and how they come together and make these decisions. I think there's probably a lot of truth to what Malachi Martin said about them getting together and putting together policy prior to putting their guy forward. But how it works, we're not insiders. We won't know.
Yeah, we won't know. But I mean, I guess I'm okay with the Cardinals getting together and talking about the issues that are important and even talking about what they think should be the solution of it. I know that can be abused, right? It can go the wrong way, and they can do what we got for the last decade plus in the Francis pontificate. I get that, but I'm not a gun control guy. Just because a gun can be used for bad doesn't mean I'm going to take it away. It can also be used for good, and it has a right and good purpose to it. So same thing here. I would want the Cardinals talking to each other and talking about what is wrong, what needs to be done, and what kind of man they would want to do that, and who they thought might be the best man for the job before voting. I'd be all right with that. I mean, that's fair, right?
I agree. I mean, and to be honest, I think that what John Paul II was trying to avoid was basically communist or Masonic influences coming together and then conspiring to put their guy on the throne. But it's a double-edged sword, and as you point out, what you wind up doing is hamstringing the good guys and allowing the bad guys to act as bad actors to collaborate and to do their thing. So with gun control, what happens? The good guys pay attention to the law and the bad guys disobey it. Same thing happens here, I think.
Yeah, definitely, because the bad guys are always going to do it. They don't care what you say. They don't care about what your opinion is of the matter. They're going to do it anyway. And so we might as well make it better and more possible for the good guys to collaborate with each other ahead of time as best we can. Stephen S., good morning. Guns are a tool and can be used for good or evil depending on who has the gun. Exactly. That's my point. So just because someone can use a gun for bad doesn't mean we should take it away, because there's still good uses for it. The same can be said for anything in life. You can use a car to run people over. Doesn't mean we take cars away. But we live in a world where they overreact all the time. And I would say this is definitely one of them. By the way, you have scandalized our good friend Paul from Buffalo, Jake.
Have I scandalized him, or have I?
All of your conversation about smoking and snuff and chew and all this other stuff has scandalized him to the point where he's having bad dreams at night, thanks to you.
Did he say it was a bad dream? He just said it was a dream.
He said, "What the heck? I had a dream there was a huge glob of chew in my mouth, and it was during Mass, and here you are talking about snuff."
I mean, all the priests were taking snuff during Mass. They had to make a rule about not doing it because they kept getting it on the altar clothes and staining them. So they had to make a rule that priests couldn't, take snuff during Mass, or at least not on the altar. Like if they needed it, they had to go over to the sacristy and take it, or something like that. Yeah,
Paul.
Oh, it was an epidemic.
Paul, listen, Paul. Send your psychotherapy bill to Jacob. He'll cover the expenses.
I ain't paying for nobody's psychological jimmies, Joe. A man's psychological jimmies are his own burden to bear. They are a heavy burden.
Speaking of which, what's the status on our 2025 mug? We don't have a 20. We need a 2025 mug. What are we doing?
It'll be done by 2026. I promise. This is like military budget projects in the U.S.
We are terrible at the whole merch thing.
We've got an idea for a Gen 5 fighter jet. It'll probably be ready around the time other countries are getting their Gen 7 fighter jets finished.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Judy Ramirez says, oh my gosh, I'm glad you described what snuff is because I actually thought it was cocaine. See, Judy, you thought, Judy thought I could see Jacob doing cocaine.
Snuff and coke are two very different things.
She thought that was a reasonable conclusion.
It's because she's seen
clarified.
She's seen pictures of me in my white linen jacket over a Hawaiian shirt, and she just assumed that I'm capable of going full Miami.
You were
that's understandable.
You were like Eddie Money on Miami Vice, is what you looked like. You just you're like the bad guy who has the white powder all over his nose, kind of like Hunter Biden in the White House. You kind of look like you could be that guy.
Yeah, I've been seen with white powder all over my nose, but that was sugar. It wasn't coke.
It was sugar, he says. Sugar. Also,
I know it's not as healthy as coke, but it was sugar.
Bring on Robert Rudolph Remus as a guest. I don't even know who that is, John Paul. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't. Do we know who Robert?
Bring on Rudolph Huss. Is that what he said? I think he's
dead.
Oh, okay.
And I won't do the whole necromancy thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know who Robert
again, Joe.
Rudolph Remus is.
Is that Uncle Remus?
He's Sergeant Slaughter from the WWF.
Is he? Is that who that is?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Oh my goodness!
Is he still alive?
I didn't realize that was his real name.
Yeah, he's alive.
Could we get him?
Can we get him?
75 years old or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe he's Catholic.
Or maybe not. We just have a fun conversation with him
exactly.
about being Sergeant Slaughter. That would be kind of cool. Good call, John Paul Sandoval. Thanks for that tip. Drew Black, however, ACT pushing cocaine. Oh my.
No one was pushing it. I was only pushing sugar.
Oh, I was just saying that Pope Jacob has been, scandalizing the folks in the chats because of his tobacco conversations.
See, I'll be fine as a pope if I'm already scandalizing the faithful.
I've been fighting the after effects of the flu for the last 2 weeks, and now I'm afraid to sniff.
It would clear you out. Maybe a little wasabi. Maybe that's what you need up there.
Oh boy,
that'll clear you out.
I'll never forget the first time I had wasabi. Was with some friends from high school. We went out to lunch at this local Chinese place on Harry Wurzbach Road, and I had never heard of wasabi before. And they're like, "Oh, you got to have some of this. It's really, really good." So I took my egg roll and I dipped it hard in there and took a massive bite out of it, and literally it clears all your sinuses out. I mean, everything came rushing out of my head as fast as possible from every potential orifice. It was really pretty rough, actually. It kind of reminded me of being in a gas chamber. If you've ever done, I've done a gas chamber like on 3 occasions where they do tear gas on you, that kind of thing. It's a lot like that. You just immediately evacuate all mucus from your skull, as fast as possible. That's my experience with wasabi. I've never had any since, for obvious reasons. Real wasabi is so expensive. Do you really? You like hot stuff in general?
Oh, absolutely. When I was in college, my friends wanted to take me on tour of the United States to eat the hottest things in the planet.
Nice. Nice.
Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Yummy.
Yeah,
I went to a Portuguese restaurant once, and I ordered. I don't even remember what I ordered. It was something big. It was like a burrito or something. And I asked for some hot sauce, and the waiter said, "Well, we only have 2 different kinds," because the hot sauce they had out was kind of mild. And I was like, "I want something hotter." He goes, "Señor, we only have one other kind." And I said, "Well, what kind is it?" He says, "Es sangue de diablo." I said, "The blood of the devil?" And he said, "Sí, señor." I said, "Well, bring it out. I want it."
Yeah.
So, and I was with a group of people. I was with a priest. And before I was allowed to taste it, the priest said, "I'm going to taste it first." And he dipped a chip in there, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And he popped the whole chip in his mouth. And the next thing I know, he's got tears streaming down his face. He's got, he's snotting, just everything. And he's dying. He's just gasping for air and chugging water. And I said, "Great." And I took the whole thing and I poured it all out on my burrito.
Yeah.
And the waiter's eyes went boom.
Yep.
And he immediately went out. He got the chef, and they all sat there and watched me eat this burrito.
We got to get you here back up. We got to get you up here in Buffalo, Michael Hichborn, and take you all the best hot wing places. We've got some hot sauces.
We're gonna have to have maybe a special hot sauce show with Michael Hichborn.
Yes.
We get fly him in.
That'd be great.
And we're gonna have we're gonna go from mild to your brain melt, and we're gonna see how well he does.
It'll be like
here's my next question,
Catholic
though.
Version of hot ones. Be great.
My follow-up question that is, why did the waiter at a Portuguese restaurant sound like the Speedy Gonzalez's cousin? That's
because that's the only way I can do a Hispanic accent.
My wife's Portuguese. They don't sound like Speedy Gonzalez at all.
It's more like
no,
it's more like
senor.
Spaniards trying to speak
You
Russian.
do not want these. This is bad for you. For you.
It's like a Russian doing a Speedy Gonzalez impression is what Portuguese more sounds
The
like.
blood of the devil is usually bad. You do not want these things. But you're like, yeah, give it to me. Let's do this thing. That's crazy, man. No, I'm not a hot sauce. Get her done. I can take mild hot sauce. I like a little mild hot sauce. That's okay, but nothing too crazy.
I'm not always in the mood for it, but I love a good hot sauce. A good hot wing that's really really making you sweat to eat it can be really it's really delicious. I like it.
Restore says there is a hot sauce out there with a name I can't repeat, but just a drop is unbearable.
There's a lot of goofy names for them.
There's a YouTube channel that focuses on hot sauce, right?
I was going to say there's that show Hot Ones where they get a guest on and they eat wings with increasingly hot sauces, and so you get to watch them try and do an interview while they sweat. They don't often have anyone interesting on. It's usually just boring celebrities, but every so often they have an entertaining one on, and it's there was a lot of fun when Shaq went on one. Shaquille O'Neal, because he just made really funny faces as eating hot wings. So that was quite entertaining because Shaq's a funny guy. But
maybe we should recreate that Catholic style. Yeah. So if we can get a big donor to underwrite that, then we'll fly Hichborn in and we will have maybe we can get some other Catholic celebrity to come in
ones, and we'll have
we'll do like a hot sauce off.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll see how high they can go in the intensity of it.
Exactly.
Mary, good morning. Says my kids love hot sauce. What kind of kids do you have, Mary?
I know a surprising number of trad Catholic priests who are really into hot sauces and super spicy food. They're really into it. There's a surprising number of them. It's that's something they really enjoy. It's kind of funny how many of them I know that do that.
Crystal from Estonia. Good morning. Well, I guess it's afternoon for you, but thanks for being on the team from Estonia, from sunny Estonia today. Praise be to God. Glad you're here. She's getting a good laugh in thanks to us. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Hot sauce for the conclave. Could that be the way we determine, who the next pope is?
Can you take the heat of the papacy?
It's a good metaphor, right?
Yeah.
It definitely kind of works.
The fires of hell.
Exactly. Yes.
Wow. I like this actually.
This is great.
Or maybe make them walk on hot coals or something. That'd be kind of cool too. Maybe do both at the same time. How much can you actually take? Alberto says my experience with Indian food. Yeah, exactly. I can't. You can't taste any of the flavors. You're too busy trying to put the fire out on your tongue. It's just not. It's not really enjoyable.
I don't like Indian food. I don't think Indian food tastes good. No.
There's a couple dishes I've had that were tasty enough, but they're ones that are pretty similar to other dishes from other cuisines.
I don't like curry. I don't like the taste of curry.
Oh, I enjoy a curry. That's one of the ones I do. Yeah.
I'm trying to tell a funny story. I might get in trouble for this, but my wife probably wouldn't appreciate me. I'm going to tell you this anyway. So when our oldest son was a wee lad, we were trying to discipline him. He was adopted, and we had jumped into the deep end of the parenting pool. Ignore the sharks and the blood in the water. Just get right in. So that's what we were doing, and we were trying to figure out, the best methods for discipline and those kinds of things. And he was doing things that he wasn't supposed to do. So we're having to go through this process with him. And one such discipline that we tested was the really hot peppers. I forget which ones they were. The green ones that were really short and really gnarly looking.
Jalapenos.
And no, they were the ones hotter than those. They weren't jalapenos. They were something more spicy than that. But I forget. But anyway, they were supposed to be really you don't want this on your tongue or whatever. So I chopped it up, got the seeds involved because that's where the heat comes from, I guess. put it on his tongue, and he just sat there and looked at me. I'm like, you little punk. Like he just like, what you got, Dad? Yeah, bring it. Give me the whole pepper. It didn't faze him in the least. I'm like, all right, get my belt. I tried to go the progressive route. Now we're gonna go the way my dad went, my grandfather went. Get the leather belt out. We're gonna go traditional on the kid from there on out. Serrano, maybe it might have been the Serrano one, John Paul Sandoval. I can't remember, but I'll never forget him just looking at me like it didn't faze him in the least. I'm like, oh my heavens, good grief! It would only took one of those for me to be done. The bad part was my wife in chopping them, like wiped her eye and it got in her eye and it was like burning.
My dad
habanero. It was habanero. Thank you, Pedro.
My dad became an expert at one-handed wing eating because there was one day when he had been eating hot wings and then he went to go change his contact lenses. So he got to be an expert in one-handed. So that's what I usually do nowadays myself. Is I eat my wings only with one hand, so I have another hand that I know is free in case of emergency. Better safe than sorry.
We're out of time now, but Damon just posted a picture in the Telegram group. The End. Flatline. That's the actual name. That's the actual name of the product.
Yeah, exactly. They all have ridiculous names.
Pepper Palace. The End. ... Flatline. Deep fried garlic cloves. Caution. Painfully delicious.
Deep fried garlic cloves sounds like amazing flavor. You and I got to try this.
That's some good packaging. Damon, I need you to mail us a sample of that.
Yeah.
Or mail it directly to Michael Hichborn, and then we'll have him eat them live on the next time we have him on the team.
We'll do the chip challenge.
Yes, exactly. Let's do the chip challenge. I'm down. Let's go.
And if we see one single drop of sweat fall from his head, then we're the winners. Okay? We're going to just test him, see how far he can go. Hey, Michael Hichborn, thanks for having a laugh with us today and hanging out with us. We really appreciate having you on.
You bet.
Tomorrow on the show, we're going to be talking about near-death experiences. That ought to be fun. And the Warrior Prayer Manual, all that tomorrow on the team. So share us with a friend. Come back tomorrow, and we'll see you there. God love you, and God bless you.